"I need the money tomorrow," my daughter ordered, handing me her husband's 500,000 debt. "And don't be late," he added. I just smiled. Okay. For hours later, I was at the airport. When they arrived to collect the money, they found the door locked and a box. They opened it and screamed. Betrayal, revenge, justice. It begins. Before we continue, please subscribe and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The doorbell rang 3 times fast, each chime more demanding than the last. I set down my bourbon and quarterly reports, already knowing who was on my porch. Through the study window, I saw their white Tesla Model S shining under the security lights. Emily only rang like that when she wanted money. I walked through the marble foyer, past family photos that suddenly felt like old museum pieces from someone else's life. Emily at 5, missing her front teeth. Emily at 18, high school graduation. Emily at 28, her wedding day. Now every picture felt like it was laughing at my naivety. She stood there with a fake smile, the kind that never reached her eyes anymore. Brandon stood behind her, staring at his phone like he was checking stocks or scores. Neither of them looked happy to be here. "Daddy." Emily threw her arms around me, holding on a little too long. The hug felt planned, like she was putting in love now so she could take out money later. Brandon walked past me without saying hello. His designer shoes clicked on the marble as he went straight to my leather chair, my chair. I followed them into the living room and noticed Emily nervously fixing the straps of her designer bag, the 5,001 I bought her last Christmas. Brandon had already spread papers across my coffee table like he was running a business meeting. Emily sat on the edge of the couch, her fingers rubbing the pearl necklace I gave her for her 30th birthday. She always touched it when she was about to ask for something. "Can I get you anything? Water? Wine?" I offered, even though I felt no desire to be polite. "Let's cut to the chase, Rob." Brandon didn't even look up as he arranged his papers. "We have a situation, Rob." Not Robert. Not even Mr. Mitchell anymore. I squeezed my bourbon glass tighter and counted backward from 10. An old anger trick that almost never worked now. Emily's voice got higher, another clue. "Daddy, you know we wouldn't come unless it was absolutely necessary. You always said family comes first, and we're family. What happened to the investment property in Round Rock?" I kept my voice calm, even though my jaw was already tightening. Brandon finally looked up like I'd asked about something ancient. "Market changes. Temporary setback. But that's not why we're here." Emily spun her wedding ring around her finger, her grandmother's ring, actually. My mother's. She'd done that spin when she lied since she was 12 and swore she didn't break Margaret's china. "The thing is," Emily began, stopped, then tried again. "Brandon's been working so hard on this new venture. Otod startup. Very promising. Revolutionary, really. How much?" I cut in. The grandfather clock ticked through 3 long seconds of silence. Brandon's cologne, too strong and too expensive, mixed with the oak and vanilla smell of my bourbon. Emily's heel tapped on the marble in a nervous beat. "It's really not that much for someone with your assets," Brandon said, leaning back in my chair. The leather creaked under him, a sound that had always belonged to me until tonight. 500,000. We need it in our account by noon tomorrow. The room felt like it tilted. My migraine, the one that always started behind my left eye when stress hit, began pounding. 500,000. Not 50,000. Not even 100,000. 500,000 said like it was nothing, like ordering takeout. "That's..." I started, then stopped. Memories hit me without warning. Teaching Emily to ride her bike in Zilker Park, her UT graduation, walking her down the aisle at the Four Seasons. Had that girl been real, or had I made her up in my head? "Daddy, we wouldn't ask if we had any other choice." Emily's fingers left her pearls and dabbed at her eyes, but I saw no real tears. The mortgage, the kids' schools. You know how expensive everything is now. I did know because I paid for those schools myself. $15,000 per child per semester at St. Andrews. Their Westlake mortgage. The $200,000 down payment I'd covered 3 years ago, which was supposed to be one-time help. Brandon stood and walked to my bar without asking. He poured himself 3 fingers of my 25-year-old Macallan. These aren't bank people we're dealing with, Rob. They're serious individuals. It would be a shame if this affected your reputation at the country club or the dealerships. The threat sat in the air like his cologne. Obvious, heavy, and sickening. My blood pressure shot up. The migraine burst across my head. The room spun, and I grabbed the mantel to steady myself. "Daddy, you look pale," Emily said, not worried, measuring, like she was counting my weakness to use it. Then she said the words that changed everything. "If Mom were still alive, she'd be ashamed of how you're treating us." The words hung there like a knife. Emily knew exactly what she was doing. Margaret and I had divorced 10 years ago, but Emily still used her memory like a weapon when it helped her. Never mind that Margaret lived happily in Houston with her new husband. Never mind that she had warned me about Emily's tricks. In Emily's story, Margaret was a saint who would have written a check without asking questions. "Your mother," I said slowly, "would have told you to get jobs." Brandon laughed from my bar, still holding my scotch like he'd earned it. "Jobs? I'm an entrepreneur, Rob. I create jobs. 3 failed startups in 5 years. A crypto disaster I warned him about last Christmas. A consulting firm that never consulted anyone. I had paid for all of it. I had watched my money vanish into Brandon's big dreams. "You missed Sophie's recital last month," Emily said, switching tactics. Her voice shook with fake hurt. "And Max's soccer tournament. But you have time for your quarterly reports." Those reports paid for their kids' school, charged their Tesla, and kept their Westlake address looking perfect. But I didn't say that. I just watched Emily's mascara run in 2 perfect lines. She had practiced this. "Let me understand," I said, letting go of the mantle and standing straighter even with the migraine. "You need $500,000 by noon tomorrow." "For what exactly?" Brandon and Emily traded a look. The kind couple's perfect over years of lying together. Brandon set down my scotch and went back to the coffee table, shuffling papers like someone used to cards or chips. "Real estate opportunity," he said. "Time sensitive. Can't miss this window." "You just said you lost money on real estate in Round Rock." "That was different." Brandon's knuckles turned white as he squeezed a document. "This is cryptocurrency. This is a sure thing." The mistake was small but important. Crypto, not real estate. The same kind of mistake that cost them $200,000 8 months ago. My left hand started shaking, something new in my 60s. I shoved it into my pocket. Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced down, typed fast, then set it face down. "Daddy, we've supported you through so much. When you and Mom divorced, who stood by you? When the economy crashed in 2020, who helped keep the dealerships running? You were in Cabo that whole summer," I reminded her. "You posted about it every day on Instagram." "That's not fair." "The wedding," I started listing, my voice steady even as anger rose. $100,000. The house down payment, $200,000. Brandon's first startup, $150,000. The second, $80,000. The third, "That's ancient history." Brandon cut in, standing up and using his height like a weapon. "We're talking about our future. Your grandchildren's future. The grandchildren whose tuition I paid directly to St. Andrews." Emily stood too, gripping her phone. Then a staged childhood photo appeared on the coffee table. One of us at SeaWorld when she was 7. She brought it as a prop. These aren't just debts, Rob, Brandon said, stepping closer. I could see the small scar above his left eyebrow. These are obligations. Serious people. Serious consequences. By noon tomorrow, or things get complicated for everyone. Your reputation, the dealerships, that nice country club membership. Are you threatening me in my own house? My voice dropped to a whisper. We're being honest about reality, Emily said. But her voice shook. She'd never seen me this angry and this controlled. Daddy, please. We need this tomorrow. Noon. That's not negotiable. The air felt thick, even with the AC running. My migraine hit with every heartbeat. Brandon's cologne felt like it filled the room. Emily's fake tears had smeared her makeup into something almost like a stage show. I stared at them. My daughter, now a stranger. Her husband, who never hid that he was a parasite. The grandfather clock chimed 9 times. Outside, suburban Austin went on with its quiet night, not knowing my family was falling apart in my living room. Fine. The word came out flat and tired. Tomorrow. Now leave. Emily thought my tiredness meant I gave in. She rushed forward for another hug. I stepped back and let her arms fall onto empty air. Brandon held out his hand to shake mine, gripping too hard like he was proving power he never earned. We knew you'd understand, Emily said as she gathered her designer bag and the staged photo. Family first, right, Daddy? They walked out without another word. Brandon's hands sat on Emily's lower back like he was guiding a prize he'd won. I stood in the doorway and watched their Tesla's white shine fade down the street. The tail lights disappeared around the corner onto Westlake Drive. I waited exactly 5 minutes after those lights vanished before I made my first call. James Walker answered on the second ring, even though it was late. After 25 years of friendship and legal help, he knew I never called after 9 unless something was truly wrong. They finally crossed the line, didn't they? He said, not surprised, just tired. Noon tomorrow, I said, like I'm an ATM with no limit. They finally went too far. The house transfer paperwork is already filed, James said. I heard papers moving on his end. They just don't know it yet. Emily's name was never on that deed. Remember? You kept it in your name when you paid the down payment. What about Margaret? I asked as I walked back through my house, seeing it differently now. Not as a home, but as a stage for tonight's last performance. She's expecting your call, James said. She says it's about time you stopped enabling them. I hung up and went straight to my home office. The migraine shifted from sharp pain to cold clarity. My laptop was open to an email from 3 weeks ago. Villa Las Palmas, Costa Rica, March 17th through April 17th. Your reservation is confirmed. The retirement trip would now be for something else. I called American Airlines and worked through the automated system like I'd done 100 times. I moved the morning flight to 6:45 a.m. First class was open. 1 passenger. I opened my home safe with the code I never shared, not even with Emily. Inside, in labeled folders, were 20 years of records. Every check, every wire, every loan. Brandon's signed note from December 2023 promising it would be the last time. Emily's Instagram posts from the past year, printed and dated, showing a rich life while claiming they were broke. Shopping at the Domain, dinners at Uchi, weekend trips to Napa. I found an old Amazon box in the garage, plain and forgettable. Inside, I placed 3 stacks of papers with a lawyer's care. First, the deed to their house. Second, the full loan history, $847,000 over 8 years, carefully listed. Third, legal notices James had written months ago, hoping we'd never need them. At the bottom, I put a USB drive with tonight's security video. The cameras I installed after a break-in 2 years ago captured everything. Emily's fake tears, Brandon's threats, their teamwork of manipulation. On top, I placed one note. You wanted it tomorrow. Here's what you're really getting. Packing took 30 minutes. 2 suitcases filled fast. Tropical clothes, important documents, medicine. I emailed my dealership manager, Jake. Family emergency. You're in charge. Details later. I stood in the hallway and looked at our family portrait from 5 years ago at Laguna Gloria. Emily's smile looked real then, or maybe I just wanted it to be. I lifted the heavy frame, flipped it backward, and hung it back. The blank back looked more honest. In my bedroom, I took off my University of Texas class ring. The one Emily used to play with when she was little, saying she'd wear it someday. I put it in the box too. My migraine was gone now, replaced by something closer to excitement. My phone showed 3 texts from Emily. I deleted them without reading. Brandon called twice, probably to repeat tomorrow's deadline. Those voicemails could sit forever. I made one more call, this time to Margaret in Houston. She answered right away like she'd been waiting. Robert, James called me. Are you really doing this? Should have done it years ago. She's our daughter, Margaret said, sad, not judging. But she isn't the daughter we raised anymore, is she? No, I said. No, she isn't. The Costa Rica place. You'll be safe there. It's a vacation, I said. A long one. Jake can handle the dealerships. The lawyers can handle the rest. Margaret was quiet for a moment. You know she'll try to find you. Let her try. By the time she understands what's in that box, I'll be drinking coffee on the beach, deciding if I ever come back. We said goodbye without big emotions. Margaret understood what Emily became maybe before I did. Mothers always know. At 11:30 p.m., I stood in my dark kitchen drinking water and looking at the fridge covered in my grandkids' drawings. Stick figures labeled Grandpa and me fishing at Lake Travis. A crayon picture of my dealership with Grandpa's work written under it. I carefully took the fishing picture down, folded it, and put it in my wallet. The kids weren't to blame for their parents' choices. I set the box on the porch table where Emily and Brandon would spot it right away. The doorbell camera would catch their faces at noon when they opened it, expecting money and finding the end of their fantasy. I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m., 6 hours until my new life began. 6.5 until theirs fell apart. The alarm cut through the dark at exactly 4:30 a.m. No es noce. No delay. 32 years of early dealership meetings had trained me to wake up fast, and today that habit had a new purpose. The coffee maker gurgled on, already set from last night. Colombian dark roast, the kind Emily used to complain was too strong back when she still came for breakfast. The mug warmed my hands. It was an anniversary gift from her 10 years ago, back when she still remembered things like that. Through the window, Austin's skyline slowly woke up, office lights turning on floor by floor while most of the city slept. I walked through my house with careful focus, like a detective recording a crime scene. In the master bedroom hung Margaret's mother's portrait. Emily had always wanted it, but never asked nicely enough to deserve it. Her childhood room, now an office, still held her high school trophies. State debate champion, National Honor Society. The daughter I raised compared to the stranger who demanded money 12 hours ago. The pool looked calm in the early light. I taught Emily to swim there when she was 4, splashing without fear. Last July, Brandon got drunk at our 4th of July party, fell in fully clothed, and blamed me for where the pool was. Even then, I paid for his ruined designer watch. The Bentley started in the garage with a smooth purr. I picked it instead of the Tesla. Brandon had too many memories in that car, too many beliefs about what he thought he would inherit. Westlake Hill streets were empty, except garbage trucks starting their routes. I drove past Emily's neighborhood. Every house was dark and quiet. They were asleep, probably dreaming about spending my money. Classic rock played on the radio, and the Eagles take it easy filled the car. The irony wasn't lost on me. At Beckave and Walsh Tarleton, I thought about calling Margaret again, but didn't. James could handle that talk better than I could. Mopac stretched ahead, nearly empty. I passed 3 of my dealerships, their lots full. Soon they would be Jake's problem. The main location still had my photo in the lobby. That would need to change. Near 5th Street, I saw Brandon's favorite bar, the Velvet Room, where his gambling friends gathered, where this whole mess truly began. Construction on Congress pushed me onto 2nd Street. In the pre-dawn dark, the city I built my business in looked like a stage being set for a play I would not attend. James's office was on the 42nd floor of the Frost Bank Tower. At 5:30 a.m., the building was mostly empty, except security and people who never stop. James waited in the conference room with Sophia Chun, his paralegal. Documents were spread out on the table with military neatness. A box of Krispy Kreme donuts sat in the center, our tradition since 1999 for big deals. "You look surprisingly rested," James said, sliding a power of attorney across the table. "First good night's sleep in months." I signed with my father's fountain pen, the one Emily never knew about. James looked at the paper. Limited scope, 60-day expiration, only property transfers and financial restructuring. Can't have you selling her organs. His joke didn't land. We both knew this was necessary surgery, not revenge. Sophia pushed forward property documents with calm speed. "The interesting part, Mr. Mitchell, is the timing. The transfer was executed yesterday at 4 p.m., before they came to your house, 3 hours before. Emily's house has been legally yours since she signed those papers in 2020. She never read past page 2. The irony was perfect. While Emily drove over to demand money, she had already lost her biggest prize. The house she bragged about on Instagram had never truly been hers. The financial lockdown? I asked. Executed at midnight, Sophia said. Joint accounts frozen. Credit cards in your name suspended. The children's tuition stays on autopay through December. We're not punishing them. James pulled out a folder thicker than the rest. The nuclear option, like we discussed. Inside were transcripts of Emily's texts to friends calling me a walking ATM and too pathetic to say no. Brandon's signed promissory note from 2023 saying it was the last request. The USB drive with last night's video. Their whole act in clear HD. The prenup Brandon signed, James added, has a gambling addiction clause. Page 47, subsection 3. He doesn't know. His lawyer was too drunk to read that far. Showed up smelling like bourbon at 2 p.m. Sophia looked uneasy. Mr. Mitchell, this is remarkably thorough. 5 years of preparation, I said. I kept hoping I'd never need it. James showed me another Amazon box, just like the one on my porch. Insurance. If she doesn't find yours, this goes to her office Monday, along with these. He showed photos. Brandon at the casino last week, time and losses clear. Margaret knows, I asked. She's known for months, James said. Helped document everything. She's as tired of enabling Emily as you are. The Costa Rica property is protected through the Cayman entity, Sophia said. Even if Emily gets aggressive with lawyers, she can't touch it. I signed the last page, my hand shaking a little as I ended Emily's trust fund. 20 years of planning for her future, erased with one signature. James noticed the shake. Bourbon? He asked, nodding toward his desk drawer. Another old tradition. No, I said. I need a clear head for the flight. At 6 a.m. sharp, I stood and shook James's hand. His grip said he understood. The elevator dropped floor by floor, each one pulling me farther from my old life. The valet already had my Bentley running. I gave him a 100 bill and an envelope. Jake Martinez will pick this up Monday. He nodded, confused but polite. I drove to the airport as the sun rose and turned Austin gold. My phone buzzed, Emily calling earlier than I thought. Maybe the last time I'd hear that ringtone without choosing to answer. Highway 71 led to Austin Bergstrom as sunrise colored the hills copper and gold. The route felt new today. Every landmark felt like goodbye. Manuel's taco truck was setting up on Riverside, where I usually stopped for breakfast tacos. Not today. NPR talked about a local businessman's expansion plans, my own dealership group, which soon wouldn't really be mine. Emily called 3 times fast, then Brandon once. Each ring felt like a timer. 10 years ago, I would have answered right away, scared something happened to the grandkids. Now I heard it for what it was, entitlement demanding payment. As I merged onto 183, I checked my plan in my head. Jake had run Saturday operations for 5 years. He would be fine. The property management company had instructions and 6 months paid ahead. The grandkids' tuition would keep going through December. They didn't deserve punishment. Everything else was no longer my problem. The airport's south terminal came out of the morning mist. The valet stand was quiet, just 2 attendants getting ready. Tommy, who'd parked my cars for 3 years, looked surprised. Early flight, Mr. Mitchell? Change of plans. I handed him the keys and the envelope. Jake Martinez will pick this up Monday. His info is inside. Everything okay, sir? Better than it's been in years. I didn't look back at the Bentley. That car had taken Emily to her wedding, Brandon to bars, and me to countless ATM withdrawals. Jake could decide what to do with it. The first-class counter was empty except for Michelle, who had checked me in for dozens of trips. Costa Rica today, Mr. Mitchell. 6:45 to San Jose. That's right. Normal words hiding a life being changed forever. 2 bags to check, I said. Everything I need. She tagged my suitcases quickly. I kept my carry-on close. Documents, medicine, laptop, and the few photos I couldn't leave behind. When she handed back my passport, I gave her a sealed envelope. I need a favor, Michelle. Someone will come looking for this later today. Emily Carter. She'll be upset. Michelle stayed professional. Any special instructions? Just check her ID. There's a key inside for a storage unit. She'll understand or she won't. Either way, the unit holds 20 years of her childhood things I saved. Let her decide if memories matter more than money. TSA pre-check moved smoothly. The agents knew me. Where to today, Mr. Mitchell? Somewhere warmer. Business or pleasure? Neither. Personal matter. Belt off, shoes in the bin. The normal travel steps felt unreal compared to what I was doing to my life on purpose. I gathered my things. My phone stayed off. At gate 14, Austin Java pulled me in by habit. The barista, Kelly, smiled. The usual medium dark roast, no room? Make it a large today. Special occasion. You could say that. I sat at the gate with coffee warming my hands like my mug at home had 2 hours ago. Before I shut my phone down completely, I saw the final count. 7 missed calls from Emily, 3 from Brandon, 12 texts, 2 voicemails. Emily's last text popped up. Dad, call me back. Having weird dreams about money. I started to type. Dreams and reality are often different. Deleted it. I typed, check the porch. Deleted it. I typed, ask James Walker. Deleted it. Then I turned the phone off, pulled out the SIM card, and dropped both into the nearest trash bin. That phone could become someone else's problem. First-class passengers for Flight 447 to San Jose, Costa Rica, now boarding. The gate agent scanned my pass with a practiced smile. The jet bridge stretched ahead. Each step felt lighter. The flight attendant welcomed me to seat 2A, window, left side. I took the champagne she offered. Strange at 7 a.m. Perfect for today. Other passengers walked by. A honeymoon couple laughing and holding hands reminded me of Margaret and me 35 years ago. A business traveler typed like his deadline was life or death. That had been me once, building an empire for a daughter who only saw ATMs. An elderly woman sat in 3C, knitting with yellow yarn like Emily's grandmother used to before arthritis stopped her. "Excuse me." A familiar voice made me freeze. Margaret stood in the aisle with designer luggage, looking as calm as she did during our divorce. She sat in 2B across the aisle, close enough to talk, far enough to keep the boundaries we built 10 years ago. "James called," she said. "Thought you might need backup. It's not your fight anymore. Hasn't been for 10 years. But she's still my daughter. Someone should be there when she lands there. I bought the condo next door 6 months ago," she added. "James really is thorough. Found it, negotiated it, handled it. I've been planning this as long as you have." The captain's voice came on. Slight delay for our final passenger. My chest tightened. Emily? Brandon? Had they figured it out early? The door opened, but it was only a rushed businessman squeezing by toward economy. "Did you tell her?" I asked Margaret. "Tell her what?" she said. "That her father finally stopped enabling her. That her husband is a parasite. That she became what we promised she wouldn't." "No, Robert. She'll figure it out today." The plane door shut with final pressure. 7:05 a.m. Pushback. 7:15 a.m. Engines roaring. The seat pressing into my back. Leather that didn't smell like Brandon's cologne or Emily's perfume. Austin shrank below us. Hills and lakes became shapes and lines. Somewhere down there, Emily's alarm would be going off. In 4 hours, she'd reach my empty house. In 5 hours, she'd open the box. In 6 hours, my old life would be gone. The flight attendant handed out breakfast menus. Business or pleasure? I thought for a moment. "Neither," I said. "It's justice." Margaret laughed. The first real laugh I'd heard from her in years. "That's the Robert the First married. Welcome back." Texas disappeared under clouds. At exactly noon, when Emily expected $500,000, I ate lunch above the Caribbean. Margaret read beside me. We were finally free from the daughter we loved and lost long before the money ran out. I learned what happened next the way I learned most things about Emily's life. Through cameras and witnesses. A father watching his daughter like a documentary he couldn't shut off. James sent me the security video 3 days later. I watched it from my Costa Rica balcony with Pacific waves sounding calm behind my daughter's breakdown. The timestamp showed 12 p.m. exactly when the first text came. "Your transaction has been completed." That was James confirming the house transfer was recorded. At that moment, I was ordering ceviche. Emily was probably sleeping off whatever Brandon bought with my last loan. James had documented her Saturday routine, too. Emily left her house at 11:30 a.m. A Starbucks charge at 11:47 proved it. 7 latte on a card I canceled at midnight. The decline wouldn't hit until Monday when weekend processing caught up, so it was her last purchase on my dime. Mrs. Chun, my neighbor of 15 years, filled in the next part. She called James at 12:15 p.m., speaking in her careful English. "Mr. Walker, they are here. Emily and the gambling man. They don't know I'm watching." The security footage started at 12 hours 15 minutes and 23 seconds. Emily's white Mercedes pulled into my driveway like she was coming to collect an allowance. Brandon checked his phone. James later confirmed he was watching basketball scores, likely planning his next bet with my money. Emily put on lipstick in the mirror, the same red she wore when she begged for her first car at 16, her wedding down payment at 28, and yesterday's $500,000 demand at 35. They walked to my door like they owned it. Brandon carried an empty Hermes briefcase, 12,000 retail, bought with my January loan. Empty, waiting for cash that would never arrive. Emily rang my doorbell at 12 hours 16 minutes and 45 seconds. A normal ring, not the triple slam from last night. She waited exactly 10 seconds, then rang again, longer. Brandon pressed his hands to the side window and looked into my empty kitchen. "His car's gone," Emily said loud enough for Mrs. Chun to hear. "So?" Brandon said, loud and dismissive. "He's got 5 cars. The lights are on timers," Emily noticed, catching what I set up weeks ago. "Maybe he went to the bank for cash. You said noon. It's barely past." They tried the door at 12:18. Emily's key scraped uselessly. James's paralegal had changed the locks at 7 a.m., 3 hours after I left for the airport. Emily's confused face was almost worth every year of her manipulation. Brandon saw the box at 12 hours 20 minutes and 3 seconds. Just an Amazon package on the porch table. Plain, except Emily's name written in black Sharpie on top. She opened it casually, likely expecting a late gift or apology. The first paper she pulled out was the deed to her house. Her face changed fast, confusion to disbelief to horror in under 3 seconds. She dropped it and Brandon grabbed it before it hit the ground. "What do you mean it's in his name?" Brandon yelled, loud enough for Mrs. Chun to hear. Emily pulled out the spreadsheet next. Every payment, every loan, every gift, all listed. Total $1.3 million over 8 years, not even counting the house. Her hands shook when she reached the bottom line. Then came photos. Brandon at the Palms Casino last Tuesday. Timestamps clear. Loss all over his face. Then the promissory note he signed, swearing December's money was the last time he'd ever ask. Emily's texts to friends came next, printed and highlighted. "Dad's too pathetic to say no, and he'll cave. He always does. And the worst one, I deserve this money more than he does." At 12 hours 23 minutes and 17 seconds, Emily's phone buzzed. First credit card decline. Then another. Then another. Chase, American Express, Nordstrom card. All in my name. All shut down at midnight while she slept. Brandon tried calling someone at 12:24. His bookie, James, later found, who told him credit extensions needed collateral, not excuses. Emily collapsed on my porch steps, her designer dress wrinkling on concrete I resurfaced last summer. She found the USB drive at 12 hours 25 minutes and 4 seconds, plugged it into her phone with shaking hands, and her own voice played out loud. "Just take whatever he gives you. He's too pathetic to say no." Then Brandon's voice. "These aren't bank people, Rob. They're serious individuals." The prenup came last. Page 47 highlighted. Gambling addiction clause circled in red. Immediate loss of marital assets if gambling debts passed 50,000. Brandon crossed that line 3 years ago. Brandon threw his briefcase at my door at 12 hours 27 minutes and 31 seconds. The handle snapped. Hermes leather scattered across my porch. Emily's sobbing turned ugly and real. Not the pretty tears from last night, but the sound of someone realizing they had destroyed themselves. Mrs. Chun stepped out at 12:28, all 4 feet 11 inches of her, holding her phone like a weapon. "I'm calling the police if you don't leave. This is my father's house," Emily screamed, mascara smearing into messy streaks. "Not anymore," Mrs. Chun said. "Mr. Mitchell sent me the transfer notice this morning. You're trespassing." Brandon stormed to the car at 12:30, leaving Emily to scoop up papers. Her fortune now looked like trash on my porch. She left some behind. The wind could deal with it. Brandon sped away, leaving tire marks the property manager would bill to their account. At 12 hours 30 minutes and 45 seconds, when Emily realized her inheritance was gone, I was looking at the ocean from a beach restaurant. The waiter asked if I was celebrating something. A graduation? I said. Your child? He asked.
No, iyan suarat.
Mine. James called Monday with the ending. Emily came back Sunday with a locksmith who refused when he checked the owner's name. She tried climbing the fence until security came. Police gave her a trespass warning. Brandon never returned. James heard he moved to his brother's place in Dallas. Divorce papers already filed. 3 days later, sitting on my balcony with Margaret reading, James asked if I wanted the full footage. No, I said, watching pelicans dive. The screaming I'd heard for 5 years was finally silent. James sent me parking garage footage 3 days later. I watched it from my deck in Costa Rica, pelicans diving in the background while my daughter's life fell apart on my laptop screen. The timestamp showed 7 p.m. March 16th, when I was eating my first peaceful dinner in years. Their Mercedes raced into Emily's condo garage. Even without sound, Brandon's body screamed rage. He slammed the door so hard the car alarm flashed like a distress signal no one would answer. Emily chased him to the elevator, clutching the documents like murder evidence of their lies dying. The elevator audio, which James's paralegals somehow got, captured their fight clearly. Emily's voice was sharp and hurt. You said it was commercial real estate. It was... Brandon snapped, desperate. The casino was just stress relief. Stress relief? Stress relief. Papers smacked flesh. Then the elevator's cheerful ding, and the doors shut on Emily's raw crying. By 7:30, Emily started an Instagram live that would become famous in Austin gossip circles. James's paralegal screenshot everything before she deleted it. Minutes later, there she was, mascara streaking her cheeks, wine glass shaking in her manicured hand. When someone you trust betrays you, she said, holding up the house deed. Brandon was behind her, throwing clothes into a suitcase. When your whole life is built on lies. Then the wine glass flew and shattered against their wedding photo. The live ended. 47 people watched Emily Carter, Westlake social star, fall apart in real time. 3 were employees from my dealerships, and they sent it to James immediately. Brandon's mother called my office Monday, and James saved the voicemail. Mr. Mitchell, Brandon's been missing since Saturday night. Emily says you kidnapped him. She paused, heavy with fear. I know that's crazy, but do you know where my son is? I didn't, but I knew where he had been. Brandon spent those hours calling every person he knew with money. Country club friends, college buddies, even his ex-girlfriend's father. Each call got shorter. Each no made him more desperate. His mother heard him say, voice breaking, "It's not just money anymore. These people don't play." Between 8:30 and 10 p.m., Emily searched Google for legal help like a drowning person grabbing at anything. Her search history showed because she used my Amazon account to connect to Wi-Fi. The searches read like denial on a screen. Can father take back gift house, Texas? How to break power of attorney. Statute limitations, financial gifts, Texas. Emergency bankruptcy lawyer, Austin. Can casino debts affect spouse, Texas? Cheap divorce attorney, no money down. The last search stung. She looked for someone else to pay for the divorce. Rachel, Emily's best friend since college, called Margaret around 10 p.m. Emily had played the whole USB. Not just the one comment. It held 5 years of family gatherings secretly recorded. Emily calling me a walking ATM at her 30th birthday. Brandon joking about bleeding the old man dry at Thanksgiving. Emily coaching Brandon on manipulation before our anniversary dinner. The Christmas toast where they mocked good old dad, the family bank. Emily played it 3 times. Rachel told Margaret like she couldn't believe it was real. The credit card declines began at 10:17 p.m., each alert pinging James's monitoring system. Chase declined. Amex suspended. Nordstrom invalid. Even Starbucks deactivated. A DoorDash driver filed a complaint the next day. Emily ordered 200 sushi, planning to pay cash. No cash in the house. The driver threatened small claims court while Brandon was already at a pawn shop with her jewelry. Emily's Facebook posts between 11 p.m. and midnight became Austin legend. She deleted them fast, but screenshots spread. Betrayed by blood. When your father chooses money over family. Anyone know employment lawyers? Selling designer bags. Serious only. Then the comments she didn't expect hit back. Cousin. Didn't you just post from Cabo last week? High school friend. Thought your dad bought you everything. Former coworker. Aren't you the one who quit working after marriage? While Emily's world collapsed, Margaret and I sat on the beach deck in Costa Rica playing poker. A local guitarist played nearby, and I tipped him 100 to play Take It Easy by the Eagles. Margaret laughed. The first real laugh I'd heard from her in years. You're terrible at poker, she said, taking my chips. I'm free, I said, and I meant it. Mrs. Chun called James again at 11:45 p.m. Emily had come back to my house, but she didn't bang on the door or try to break in. She just sat in her Mercedes in the driveway, staring at my dark windows like they might suddenly forgive her. She stayed an hour. When she left at 1 a.m., Mrs. Chun said Emily looked older, like she aged 10 years in 10 hours. By midnight March 16th, Emily had lost access to $2.3 million, learned about $500,000 in hidden debt, discovered Brandon gambled away their savings, found out she never owned her house, and learned her mother knew for months. James asked if I felt guilty about the recordings. I told him the only thing I regretted was not starting sooner. Sunday morning, March 17th, Emily stood outside my office building for 2 hours. Security footage showed her pushing the intercom again and again like a child pressing an elevator button, hoping it would change reality. She called employees from a company directory she stole years ago. Jake blocked her after the third call. Others ignored her. By noon, she went to Austin Bergstrom, the same terminal where I once dropped her off for college trips and welcomed her home from her honeymoon. Now she was there hunting for clues to my escape. TSA wouldn't give passenger info. American Airlines needed a warrant. When she claimed family emergency, they checked the note. Passenger requested no contact. The agent told her James had airport security video. Emily's face broke when she heard that. Her Uber receipts that afternoon mapped pure desperation across Austin. Robert's Golf Club, membership revoked. Morton's Steakhouse, no one had seen me. Even my barber shop on South Congress, closed on Sunday, but she stood outside anyway, peering in like hair clippings could tell her where I went. Monday, March 18th, became her crash course in law. For law firms, for consultations. Each lawyer went from interested to sympathetic as they read the papers. These are ironclad, said the first. You'll need a 10,000 retainer, said the second. Do you have money? Asked the third. The fourth just shook his head. The dealership scene at 3 p.m. hit employee social media. Emily stormed into the main location on Research Boulevard, screaming at Jake for answers. Jake Martinez, 6 feet 4 inches, former Marine, stayed calm while she yelled about kidnapping, elder abuse, and theft. When she threw coffee at the glass door, customers recorded it. The stains stayed 3 days. Jake left it as a lesson. Brandon's mother's voicemail at 5 p.m. repeated the same fear. Mr. Mitchell, Brandon's been missing since Saturday. Emily says you kidnapped him. I know that's crazy, but do you know where my son is? Tuesday, March 19th, the real creditors arrived. Not bank workers in cheap suits, but 2 men in Italian leather who knocked politely and spoke softly. They left only a business card with a phone number. No threats, no yelling, just heavy silence. Emily called Brandon 47 times. His phone stayed off. Her Instagram stories that day, saved by sorority sisters, showed pawn shops. Bags worth 30,000 sold for 8,000 cash. Jewelry worth 50,000 sold for 15,000 cash. Brandon's abandoned watches worth 40,000 sold for 12,000 cash. Still 465,000 short. That night, Margaret took Emily's call and recorded it legally, knowing I'd need to hear it someday. "Mom, did you know?" Emily sounded younger, almost like a child. "About Brandon's gambling 6 months ago. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened?" Margaret asked. Silence. Then Emily said, "I need money." Margaret answered, "So did I during the divorce. You told me to be independent." The call ended with Emily's sob cut off by Margaret hanging up. Wednesday, March 20th, Emily walked into James's office wearing the same designer dress from her Cabo Instagram post a week earlier. James noted the irony. Same conference room where I signed the papers. Same chair where Brandon spread his lies. James showed her everything with cold, clear order. Power of attorney created long before her emergency. House deed trail. Her signature from 2020, stopping at page 2. Gift tax returns proving every dollar was a gift, not a loan. Brandon's promissory note, his bold signature. "He's my father," Emily cried, voice cracking. "He has to help me." "Legally, he doesn't," James said. "What about grandkids' support? Trust funds in their names only. Untouchable until 18. This is elder abuse," Emily shouted. "He's 62. Sound mind," James said. "Left voluntarily." James accidentally left Brandon's credit report on his tablet, and Emily saw it all. 500,000 gambling debt, 200,000 personal loans she never knew about, 100,000 hidden credit cards, even an attempted second mortgage on her house, denied because she didn't own it. Then James slid a final envelope across the table. Mr. Mitchell authorized one final gift. Inside was a 10,000 cashier's check and a note in my handwriting. "For a fresh start. Dad." Emily ripped it in half. The pieces fell like dead leaves. Then she asked if there was another. There wasn't. There never would be. Meanwhile, I was learning Spanish from kids on the beach. Roberto El Rico, they called me, laughing when I messed up words. My blood pressure dropped 20 points. I slept 8 hours straight. I hadn't even thought about Emily in 2 days until Margaret mentioned her. Wednesday night, James reported, "Emily left my office at noon. Security video shows her sitting in the lobby until the building closed at 9 p.m. The guard said she asked if you ever talked about her. He lied and said yes, that you spoke kindly. She said thank you and left. That night in Costa Rica, I dreamed of teaching Emily to ride her bike again. This time, when I let go, she kept riding until she disappeared." The Austin American-Statesman article hit my inbox April 3rd. Local businessman missing after financial scandal. Brandon Carter, 38, had been missing since March 19th. Emily filed a missing person report. Police found no sign of foul play. His car sat in airport long-term parking. A ticket to Vegas was bought but never used. The creditors returned to Emily's condo April 5th. More forceful this time, based on the police report she filed. They left a photo from February. Brandon at the casino, markers on the table owing $500,000. Emily asked for a restraining order. The judge asked about the debt. Order denied. Her garage sale that weekend became neighborhood entertainment. James's investigator sent Facebook group posts that showed her fall. Moving sale. Everything must go. Furniture from charity galas. Brandon's custom golf clubs sold for $200. Wedding china and Waterford crystal. $50 for the set. Her wedding dress stored perfectly. No buyers at any price. A neighbor posted, "Sad. A year ago she hosted that autism charity gala. Raised $50,000. By mid-April, Emily's job applications flooded Austin. 47 applications in 2 weeks, tracked through LinkedIn. Interior design firms said the gap was too long. Retail said she was overqualified. Finally, Nordstrom hired her, the same store where she once spent thousands a month. Starting pay, $15 an hour plus commission. Even the universe kept its jokes. April 15th, an eviction notice was taped to her condo door. 3 months behind on the mortgage. Brandon handled money and never told her the truth. For $1,000 monthly payment. $13,500 owed plus late fees. May 15th deadline to pay or leave. She found it after her first day at Nordstrom, still wearing the name tag she used to ignore on other workers. The divorce filing on April 18th read like a business breakup. Abandonment listed as the reason. Brandon had to be served. No one knew where he was. A judge allowed notice in 3 newspapers. Cost $500 Emily didn't have. She used her employee discount to buy a suit for court, her first clothes bought with earned money in 7 years. While Emily burned down, I built up in Costa Rica. My days found a rhythm I forgot existed. Sunrise with howler monkeys, coffee over the Pacific, morning swims in clear water, lunch at Manuel's beach bar where no one cared about dealerships or daughters.
Kids cayedme Roberto el Rico.
I taught them English. They taught me Spanish. Their parents invited me for dinner where nobody asked for money. People talked about football, fishing, and weather. Nobody begged for anything except pass the salt. Margaret took up painting, making terrible seascapes that made us laugh. We hadn't laughed together since Emily turned 16 and started treating us like resources. Not parents. Not romance. Our romance died long ago, but peace, like 2 survivors sharing a lifeboat. My doctor in San Jose was shocked. Blood pressure down 30 points. Weight down 20 pounds. Off 3 medicines. What changed? He asked. Everything, I said. Nothing. I stopped paying for other people's lives and started living my own. April 25th, TMZ broke news. Missing Texas businessman spotted in Mexico. Brandon Carter working at a Juarez car rental place under a new name. 10 pounds thinner. No wedding ring. Extradition unlikely for civil debt. Emily commented with 2 words. Good riddance. April 27th, Emily finally used the storage key. Manuel reported what she found. Childhood items I saved, photo albums she assumed were gone, her grandmother's jewelry she thought was lost, a $50,000 savings bond in her name that would mature in 1 year, and my note. For when you remember who you were before money mattered. The email came April 28th, forwarded by James. Emily wrote carefully, Mr. Walker, please tell my father I found the storage unit. I understand now.
I'm sorry.
I'm working at Nordstrom.
I'm surviving.
Maybe that's the lesson. Don't tell him I asked. But is he happy? James asked if he should answer. April 29th, sunset on the beach, Margaret reading beside me, the guitarist playing nearby in the same spot as my first week. Tell her yes, I told James. Tell her I'm happy. And tell her the bond was her mother's idea. Anything else? James asked. Tell her I'll be here when she's ready to visit, I said. But she pays her own way. That night, I watched Costa Rican families on the beach. 3 generations playing, no phones, real conversation. Poor by American money, rich by everything that mattered. Emily texted James. Maybe Christmas if I save enough. First time in 5 years she mentioned saving for anything. April 30th. Manuel's band played at the beach bar and dedicated a song to Roberto El Rico. Not the Eagles. This was a local song about a man who found treasure by giving everything away. Margaret translated with tears in her eyes. It wasn't only about me. It was about every expat running from something and finding something else. James called that night. Emily sold her Mercedes, bought a 10-year-old Honda, started a savings account, posted about the dignity of honest work. Should I keep monitoring? James asked. No, I said. Lessons done. Teaching is done. Learning might be starting. The eviction notice had been up since April 15th. By May 5th, James said Emily ran out of options. Begging, offering partial payments, trying to bargain with the owner. She didn't know I sold that building to a REIT in January, expecting this exact moment. Security footage showed her renting the smallest U-Haul and loading it alone. Took 12 hours. Mrs. Peterson, who Emily complained about for years, offered help from her balcony. Emily wouldn't accept. She dragged a leather couch inch by inch while neighbors watched. The storage unit she could afford held everything except clothes and her laptop. 1 month paid. Cheapest place in Austin. Pure irony. Her unit was right next to the one I left for her with the bond. She walked past it daily, not knowing. May 10th brought Brandon's final message. A registered letter from Juarez. Emily's hands shook signing for it. Inside, 1 page of Brandon's handwriting. Emily, by the time you read this, I'll have a new name in life. The men looking for me won't find me. Don't try. I'm sorry about your father's money, but you said he'd never cut you off. We both gambled. We both lost. The prenup your dad made me sign means you get nothing from me. Consider us even. B. Her Nordstrom manager called James. Emily missed 3 days. When she returned, she'd lost 10 pounds and looked hollow. The manager almost fired her. For the first time in Emily's life, she begged, really begged, and kept the job by promising perfect attendance. May 15th, eviction day. Emily moved into a studio above a taco shop on East Riverside, a place she once called sketchy. 400 square feet. Window AC rattling like dice. Shared laundry in a mildew-smelling basement. $700 a month, cash only, no credit check. Her second job started May 16th. Denny's night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The same Denny's where she once screamed at a manager over cold eggs. Now she served drunk college kids and tired nurses for $13 an hour plus tips. Her life became a machine. Wake 5 a.m., Nordstrom 6 to 2, sleep 3 to 10, Denny's 11 to 7. Repeat. Sundays, laundry and meal prep, rice, beans, cheap chicken. Margaret visited May 24th and called me after. Emily hung one thing on the stained wall, our college graduation photo. Designer clothes were gone, replaced by Walmart basics. 20 pounds lost. Cheekbones sharp. Margaret said their talk went like this. I helped your father plan this. I know. Are you angry? I was. Now I'm too tired. The bond was my idea. Insurance for when you hit bottom. This is bottom.
No.
Bottom is when you stop blaming everyone else. Emily admitted slowly, like pulling teeth. I was a terrible daughter. You were a spoiled daughter, Margaret said. There's a difference. Is there? Terrible can't be fixed. Spoiled can be outgrown. Memorial Day weekend hit with Austin heat. Emily worked a double at Nordstrom for time and a half. Denny's after was packed. She made $300 in tips in one night, the most money she'd held since March. A Denny's security camera showed her at 7:15 a.m. May 31st in her Honda, counting tips and crying. Not fake tears, real ones. She wrote to James it was the first money she truly earned. No tricks. No family name. Just work. Her phone record showed a text typed but never sent. Dad, I made $300 tonight by myself. I know you won't see this. I know you're gone. But I wanted you to know. I'm starting to understand. She deleted it, but phone records kept it. In Costa Rica, rainy season began. I started volunteering teaching English at the local school. Kids called me Teacher Roberto. Nobody cared about my money. Margaret sold her bad paintings for 20 to tourists and gave the money to the school. We ate simple dinners, rice, fish, plantains. Better than any country club meal. James sent his last update. Emily working 2 jobs, living in a studio, surviving. I replied, stop monitoring. She has to do this alone now. May 31st, midnight. Emily started another Denny's shift. She tied her apron and walked to a table of loud fraternity boys, the type Brandon would have fit in with. One recognized her and shouted, Emily? Emily Carter from the country club. She didn't flinch. That's me, she said. Now, what can I get you? James said later that was the moment. Serving pancakes to people who knew her old life. That Emily stopped being my daughter's costume and started becoming herself. June brought full Texas heat, and Emily found her rhythm. Nordstrom customers asked for her by name. She became helpful, not judging. Night shift nurses tipped extra because she remembered their coffee. No sugar for Beth, extra cream for Susan, decaf for Maria trying to quit caffeine. A coworker told James Emily was size 4 now. Not from dieting, but from constant work. Walking miles in the store, carrying trays at night, eating only what she could afford. Her cheekbones looked sharp, but her eyes held something new. Awareness. Sundays became strict. Laundromat at 6 a.m., cheap groceries at Asian markets on North Lamar, meal prep on one burner, then the library. She began reading financial literacy books and taking notes like a student. June 10th, Tuesday. Emily checked mail in her building lobby, expecting bills and credit offers she couldn't use anymore. Instead, she found a cream envelope with no return address, Costa Rica stamp. She shook when she saw my handwriting. She sat on the lobby stairs and opened it right there. 3 pages in my careful script, the same handwriting on birthday cards and checks for 35 years. I wrote, Emily, I'm writing this on a beach in Costa Rica. A little girl here reminds me of you at 7. Fearless, curious, demanding. The difference is she's grateful. I don't blame you for who you became. I built you. Every time you cried, I wrote a check. Every time you demanded, I delivered. I thought I was loving you. I was crippling you. Your mother says you're working 2 jobs now. Good. Work teaches what inheritance never can. Money earned has weight. Gifts didn't. I'm not coming back to the man I was. That man was a checkbook with a heartbeat. But I might come back to meet who you're becoming. The storage unit key was your mother's insistence. The bond matures in April 2026. By then you'll either live without it or still wait to be rescued. Either way, you'll know who you are. I do love you, but love without respect is pity. Earn my respect. More importantly, earn your own. P.S. Your grandmother would be proud you work at Denny's. She was a waitress when she met Grandpa. You never knew. I was too ashamed to tell you. Now I'm ashamed I was ashamed. Emily carried that letter in her apron pocket for a week. A Denny's coworker said she read it on breaks and cried in the bathroom. Not with anger, but something deeper. She started asking coworkers about their families and listening. She called Margaret about the grandmother story. Why didn't you tell me? Margaret said, you never asked about anyone's struggle, only their success. What else don't I know? Emily asked. Everything that matters, Margaret answered. Emily's change showed at Nordstrom. Her review said, Emily is now our top associate. Customers trust her. She understands saving and sacrifice. She got promoted to department lead, 18 an hour. First promotion she earned, not received as a gift. June 25th, Emily wrote back. 5 days. dozens of drafts. Margaret shared parts. Dad, I'm writing at 3 a.m. between jobs. My feet hurt. My back aches. I've never been happier. Not shopping happy. Real happy. Happy I earned the sandwich. Happy customers asked for me. Happy I paid my rent. I was furious when you left. How dare you abandon me? Now I understand. You didn't abandon me. You freed me from myself, from what we both let me become. Brandon is gone. Good riddance. He was my mirror. We were parasites feeding entitlement. When the host vanished, we had nothing. I don't want your money anymore. I need the bond later for a better apartment, but I want it as seed money for a life I'm building, not rescue money. Come back when you're ready. Not to save me, just to see me. The real me under the labels and demands. P.S. I kept one thing, our graduation photo. You looked proud. I want to earn that look again. The letter reached me July 2nd, near Independence Day. Fitting. I read it on the beach with Margaret leaning in. She gets it, Margaret said. Getting it and living it are different. I said. Give her time. How much time? Margaret asked. How long did it take you to truly change? I'm still changing, I said. Exactly, she replied. June 30th at 11 p.m., Emily began her shift. A regular customer, an old man who always sat alone, said, "You look lighter, dear, unburdened." Emily smiled a real smile. "I'm learning to carry my own weight instead of expecting others to carry it." He left a 20 tip on an 8 check with a note, "For your education fund." A fellow traveler. That night, I decided I would go back in August, not to rescue her or test her, just to see who she was becoming when nobody paid for her life. I landed at Austin Bergstrom at 10 a.m. on August 15th, 2025. Same gate I left in March. 5 months felt like 5 years.
Margaret stayed in Costa Rica.
"This is your journey to finish," she said. I rented a modest sedan, not a luxury car the old me would demand. I drove past my dealerships. They ran fine without me. Good. I passed Emily's old condo. A new family sat on the balcony, happy without debt. I checked into a Hampton Inn, not the Four Seasons. New life. Comfort, not show. I called James. "I'm here." "She doesn't know." "No," James said. "Want to see her real life, not a performance?" Nordstrom. She's there until 6. At 4 p.m., I stood in Nordstrom at Barton Creek Mall, watching from across the floor. Emily knelt beside an elderly woman and helped fit shoes, patient and kind. Old Emily would have shoved that job to someone else. She looked lean but strong, moving with purpose. Her uniform was simple and clean. Hair in a ponytail. No salon look. Her face without makeup looked beautiful in a way I hadn't seen. Honest. At 5:30, I approached like a normal customer. "Excuse me, I'm looking for comfortable walking shoes." She turned and froze. Her mouth opened, no sound. Then softly, "Dad." "Hello, Emily." We didn't move for a moment. 5 months of change hung between us. Then she laughed, not bitter, just real. "You're shopping at Nordstrom. You haven't bought your own clothes in 20 years. Things change," I said. "Yes," she said. "They do." She couldn't leave the floor, so I stayed while she showed me shoes, like a regular customer. We talked carefully. "You look different," I said. "I am different. Poverty is a good diet plan." "It's not poverty," she said. "It's reality. Same thing when you're used to fantasy," I replied. She rang up the shoes and applied her employee discount without asking. Pride and small kindness. "I get off at 6, she said. "Then Denny's at 11. Can we eat between?" "I can't afford dinner out," she added. "I'll cook." "Where do you live?" I asked. She hesitated. "It's not what you're used to." "Neither am I." I said. At 6:30, I climbed the stairs to her studio. She had changed into worn jeans and a t-shirt, both clean, clearly secondhand. The room was tiny but spotless. One chair, one stool. She offered me the chair. "It's not much," she began. "It's yours," I said. "That makes it everything." On the wall was our graduation photo. On the counter was my letter, near a tiny shelf of library financial books. I cooked pasta with what she had. Simple but real. She watched me cook, like we used to when she was 10. "Mom says you volunteer teaching in Costa Rica," she said. "Best things I've done lately have been free," I answered. We ate at her small table with plastic plates and mismatched forks. Better than any country club meal. "I hated you," she said suddenly. "I know," I said. "I mean really hated you. Wanted you dead. I know. How could you leave me with nothing? How could I leave you with everything?" I asked. "It was killing you. It was killing both of us." "Yes," she whispered. Silence came, not awkward, but needed. At 9 p.m., she had to get ready for Denny's. I pulled out an envelope. "This isn't rescue," I said. "It's investment." Inside was a $5,000 check and a contract. "What's this?" she asked. "A business proposal. You work for me, not at dealerships. A new project, teaching financial literacy to young adults. You know the price of not knowing." "I'm not qualified," she said. "You're uniquely qualified," I told her. "You've lived both sides. Rich without understanding and poor with awakening." She read the contract slowly and carefully. Fair pay. No special treatment. Raises based on results. "This isn't charity," I said. "It's business. If you fail, you're fired, daughter or not. And if I succeed," she said quietly, "then you'll have succeeded." At 10:30 she had to leave. She hugged me. First real hug in years. Not a performance. Not a trick. Just connection. "I'll call tomorrow after I read the contract again," she said. "Read it 3 times," I said. "That's another lesson." "I'm learning," she said. "We both are." 1 month later, Emily accepted the job but kept Denny's on weekends for 6 months. She wanted a backup plan. Smart. Her first workshop had 12 people. A year later, she spoke at colleges. 2 years later, she wrote school curriculum. She didn't touch the bond when it matured. She used it as a house down payment. The cash she used for the rest came from her own savings. Brandon never came back. I heard he married a rich widow in Cancun. Same cycle. Not our problem. Thanksgiving 2025. Emily hosted in her studio. Margaret brought side dishes. I brought wine. We sat on the floor around a coffee table. Emily raised her water glass. She had to work later. "To family," she said. Margaret added, "To lessons learned." I finished. "To starting over." We clinked glasses, plastic and glass. Perfect, imperfect. The fortune I spent my life building meant nothing compared to what was in that tiny room. A daughter's respect earned, not inherited. And the truth that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to save themselves. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe, and share your impressions of the story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.